Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're going to talk a little bit about battered person syndrome, and better known as battered woman syndrome. However, we know that it happens to 1 in 4 men, and so it's battered person syndrome. And remember, I'm not a professional, I'm not licensed, I'm just a human being who's been through it, who's going through it, and y'all have Google at your fingertips, right? So you can educate yourselves at your leisure. I am going to check some notes for this one in particular, just to make sure that I can get the information across the way it's supposed to when it comes to battered person syndrome. All right, and so what it does is, I love how it says virtually being held hostage within your head and in your home, and isolated while they allow you to, they abuse you, terrorize you, convince you that if you leave, things will get worse. That's basically a subcategory of the complex trauma, or CPTSD. Leaves the victims obviously feeling low self-esteem, worthless, helpless, useless, all of the things and the words that they tell us about ourselves and convince us to make sure that we know that we can't do anything without them, to convince us to make sure that if we leave, it's going to get worse, right? And so when we're dealing with battered person syndrome, when you leave as a survivor and we get out, sometimes, even with healing, we're only human, right? Because healing never ends. We may get into another relationship, and sometimes it can be difficult. And here's the thing. When you are a survivor of DV, right, and you move forward and you decide to trust someone else with your heart, it's important for them to know what you have been through. Now, you don't have to share everything, but it's important to know. And for those of you out there who may be with someone who is a survivor of DV, it's important to ask questions however they're comfortable answering. You know why? Because it falls under CPTSD, which means you can develop mental illnesses, physical illnesses from the abuse, even if it's just mentally. Or especially if you have a parent growing up that beats you. Like I feel like my picture is next to the battered person syndrome, because I had the mother and then I had the wife and these different things, right? And that's why it gets worse. They will do whatever it takes to make sure that you don't speak. And for those of us who have already suffered with mental illnesses, right, especially unaliving 8 attempts over here, right, I'm sure in her biggest dream was that I would do that in order to make sure that nobody finds out. And the exact opposite happened when I said no. Now I never will. Made my therapist happy, right? Because I said then that's how they will keep me quiet for good, and I'm not doing that, right? We say we heal out loud because we almost died in silence, because that's the truth. All right, so remember, y'all, you're not alone. We're in it together, and I love you.